welcome to the Quail Call. This is the team at Quail City Soccer. The team has assembled. I'm Ryan Townsend. I'm your host. Rachael is our producer. Ryan Hodek is the founder and editor of Quail City Soccer. We have Daniel, who is providing commentary, and then we have Valor Nash, who is the tactics and stats guy. We have all assembled. We are excited. Some of us are more optimistic than others about the upcoming 2026 season. But before we can shift gears into prognosticating and predicting and sharing all of our insights, we have to do a requiem for the 2025 season. The 2025 season, for me, a momentous first step into being on this team. My fourth year as a supporter of Sacramento Republic FC. But who wants to go first? I'm really interested in hearing your guys' thoughts, your takes on what does it all mean? What does 2025 mean? Maybe share a highlight and a low light, or just give us your thoughts. In review, now that we've had a little bit of time to let some of the pain maybe subside or be turned into a chronic condition that we can never get rid of. What are we thinking here? And why don't I start with you, Valor? What did you think about this last season?
I think 2026 is good first steps for Collins. I think it was fairly disappointing to see that we went out in the first round of the playoffs again. I thought the Open Cup was fairly disappointing, especially the lineup that we fielded against San Jose, where it was just not competitive. That was fairly disappointing to see from Collins, but I also think we had some really good steps, especially with a roster that Collins ultimately inherited from Briggs when he left. I mean, Collins came in late December, early January. He only was able to bring in 3 or 4 players of his own. Everybody else was kind of inherited into a system that didn't really fit what Collins wanted to run. So it was interesting to see kind of what he did with who he had. And I think you saw, at least tactically, a little bit of where he wants to go. One of the things that was good to see is that Republic played a really, really good high press counter, which was very new under Collins. We didn't see that under Briggs. And it led to a lot of what I started dubbing 6-second goals, where we would have the ball for less than 6 seconds before we scored, usually because of turnovers high up on the pitch. The disadvantage, though, that came with that is that we really struggled to score when we didn't have possession. And ultimately, I think that's really what undid our 2025 season and what I was most disappointed with. If you look at even just our last 5 games, we had 3 losses, only 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. And the 2 wins were the 2 games that we had less than 50% possession. We just could not get anything going forward with the ball. And I think a big problem with that is that we just didn't have strikers who could finish. So I think ultimately that undid things, but it's hard to judge Collins and co kind of on what that looked like, especially with not really having players who he ultimately wanted. So 2025 season was very much a transitional season in my mind, where we were stepping out from Briggs into Collins and kind of setting up the pieces for next year.
Yeah, and as a follow-up to that, go ahead, Ryan. Like you got something there.
I do. I want to piggyback on that a little bit, actually. So I agree it was a transition. 2025 was very much a transition season under Collins. And I would say that you can't fault Collins for the results, but I do a bit. And my reason for why is I think I wrote in the early part of 2025, I justified a lot of the decisions and a lot of the results in my writing and the pieces we were putting out. And I think it was easy to say, like, well, they're still finding their footing. He did inherit a team, right? Like, most of the players were signed prior to Collins coming in. And so you can discount a lot of the early results based on that. But where I do fault Collins in 2025 was his inability to pivot early when it wasn't working, when it wasn't getting results, when we weren't winning, we weren't scoring. The defense was always solid year round, but we just weren't getting those results. And I feel like it took well into the midseason and late midseason before we finally started to see Collins pivot and make changes. And then the results started kind of to flow with, and we started to climb back up that table, and we were seeing those results. So yeah, I think you could always make the argument 100% it was a transitional season. The results are here or there. It's hard to judge him entirely on that season, being that he did inherit the squad, right? But I think that's the only fault in the last few months since the season's ended that I've reflected on, is that Was it transition season? Sure. But that is the only fault I think I placed solely on him, was the inability to pivot in tactics early in the season when the results weren't showing. The same thing kept happening. It was routine, right? We could call the game before the game even began. We knew what was going to happen. And if we knew as fans and commentators here on it, he had to know. And he just didn't make those calls early enough in the season for me. But not all bad, though. I'll share my highlight was obviously we made it to a final, right? It wasn't the U.S. Open Cup. We went out of that in the weakest way possible. Certainly not competitive, but we did make it to a final. We did compete. We made it to the playoffs when, I will be honest, I didn't have high hopes of that early in the season. But then, of course, we did go out first round. So it's a season of up and downs for me. But here we are in 2026. So we'll see what he can do with the new team he has signed.
How about you, Rachel? What did you think? I know you were there in the stands. An exercise in futility the last couple of elimination games felt like, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you tell me.
I mean, it certainly felt. I mean, we came into our finals for last year with 2 losses, right? One to Inter Miami, and I think they were second to last in their division. And losing a game like that before you go into your finals, it has to carry with you, right? It carried with me as a fan. I couldn't believe that we came out of that game with a loss. But it just felt like that was the end for me. I came to the finals because I have to, but I kind of knew the result, like Ryan was saying. You kind of know the results because of all of our seasons coming in. 2024 felt sort of the same way. We looked good on paper. We were high in our conference, usually first or second, or competing for first or second, but then it never resulted in silverware. And we did really well in the last 2 cups, right? The Open Cup, not so much, but the Jaeger Cup was really exciting. And then the USL Championship, to get to finals is amazing, but to see your team sort of lose muster, not connect, it's hard to watch. But in leading to that, I'm hopeful because much of what Neil Collins has really said and a lot of his actions in terms of signings seem like they're addressing the error of their ways in 2025. They are very heavy with 7 new signings. A lot of it is midfield and strikers. So as much as 2025 wasn't ideal, I'd like to think and be optimistic about 2026.
So you like what you've seen so far in the offseason. That kind of helps you look back with a little bit more hope than despair.
Yeah.
On the scale.
I mean, we're in 2026 now. My gears have shifted. I've put it all behind me, but I think really what it comes down to is if Collins is addressing it, and even the players have made remark to what was missing in last season. I mean, we had very few injuries last year, and the season prior that was huge. It was very pivotal in how we were able to stretch through past July into finals, into cups. With that and our results, it seems like we should have had silver. We should have got something, right? And we didn't. And so our new signings feel really hopeful and they feel like we're going to get goals. That's my, not to weigh in too quick on the predictions, but I'm leaning out with hopefulness.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So we're going to kick it over to Daniel. I don't know, Daniel, like what are you just like ready to burst up out of your chair and counter some of this negativity you're hearing over here, or what? Because you're ride or die with this club. So tell me about 2025. What are you going to take away? What are you going to take away from it, and what have we learned?
Yeah, it was tough because I really tend to look at things on a personal level in some cases, and I just know how much Roro wanted to go out on a higher note. And that game, the way it was officiated, and I hate to bring up officiating, but to me it's how they officiate all the teams, not just the Republic, not just at Heart Health Park, but they let go a lot of crappy play. You see it frequently when teams come into Heart Health Park, they start diving 30 seconds in trying to get yellow cards and stuff, and it's just not very entertaining. So I was really bummed about the kind of style of play that's allowed in the league. I think it's turned into, you're grabbing jerseys, you're diving, you're doing everything you can and it's just really negative to me. And I'm like, just play, please. And that was hard. I think also seeing The lack of scoring is tough because I've followed the team the whole time. We've never been a high scoring team. And I really felt that in this off season, we had to make some changes. Obviously, Roro's retiring, but I see a lot of people that follow the team. They build those personal relationships and they get the autographs signed after the games. And they're like, oh my God, my guy left. This guy left, and this guy left. And what are we going to do now? And I'm like, what did you think? We went out in the first round. We didn't score many goals. Changes need to be made. And we do develop, personal relationships with some of these players, and we do develop a fondness for them. And hey, here's our favorite. And my daughter is bummed that Cicerone's gone, and it's just like misses hair, and he was a guy I had a crush on and everything.
She misses his hair.
Yeah,
don't we all?
Miss that, and he did well for us. But I think the direction we're going demands change. And that's what the good teams do. You don't stand pat and, hey, hope something different is going to happen this year. So from that perspective, I like what was done in the offseason. Do I hope there's a little bit more? Absolutely. As far as last season went, to me, it was what we kind of grown to expect, which I hate status quo. I hate being complacent. And it was, we're going to be a good team. We're going to be pretty high up the table. We're going to get to playoffs, and then let's see what the hell happens. I want to go farther than that. I know the team does as well. And I'm hopeful that these changes that were made, while uncomfortable in a lot of ways, will result in a stronger team to augment that strong defense we already have. I think that the advent of Willie was really just a really sort of positive note, because when he first started, I'm like, oh, they're trying a lot of different people to figure out what that final 11 is going to be out there. And he got started. It might have been the first opening game, and he just kept it. And I think having faith like that in players, younger players, does well. I think the new guys coming in are going to have every opportunity to strike a claim for a starting position. And I think that he is not one of those coaches, at least not initially. He's going to give everyone a chance. He's going to throw out different lineups and do things like that, which I think is good in the beginning because it's a long season. We don't need to try and win every single game. Realistically, we want to be competitive. We want to play for wins. But there's times you have to look at the bigger picture with all the games coming up. So my hope is with this preseason game coming up, we just get a feel for the players. Right now I met a whole bunch of people at their first practice. Some looked really impressive. Front line as far as our striker, our attacking force, they must have grown 6 inches across the board. So we're talking about headers, and we're talking to Kleeman and him talking about how, I don't want us to be a defenseman. I want to help, score. I want to get into the attack too. And those are the sort of things I love to hear. So I'm very hopeful for the coming year. Obviously, we haven't seen hardly anything yet, so there's not a whole lot to go on. But I think the things that needed to get done, particularly the big changes, some beloved players left us, and that's always hard. But I really felt like every single one that went, there was none where I was like, oh my God, we can't lose him.
One of the things I think you said was very interesting is we don't necessarily need to win every game. And I think that is a very, very good point that I think a lot of Republic fans might struggle with that concept. But I mean, you look last year at Louisville, who was the top team in the entirety of USL Championship by a large distance. They ended the season on 73 points. They had 22 wins, 7 draws, and they lost just a single game over the entire season. And they went out in the first round of the playoffs to Detroit on home turf. And Detroit was just barely squeaked into the playoffs. And so I think there's a lot to be said with not just momentum, but also burning yourself out throughout the season. And I think Louisville really struggled with that, where they were very much on a mindset of we need to win every single game. And it killed them towards the end of the season because they just lost the legs. So I think that's an excellent point of we want to be competitive every game, but it's not going to kill us if we have a couple of losses or draws in there. Like, we definitely want to be at the top of the table. I'm not saying we don't want to do that, but we can't kill legs by throwing out our starting top 11 every single game with no wherewithal of playing some of the backup guys every once in a while, getting some other minutes in, spreading the legs out a bit throughout the season.
That's even the same situation we had under Briggs. I mean, we started off season so well and then burnt out by the end of the season, and we're closing out the season on consistent losses. And so you can make the same argument there that we went out, and we can argue that Briggs was a great coach in the sense that we fought for every game and fought for every win and fought for every point, which is great. And that's what we really want to see as fans when we watch the team, right? But then to your point, we burnt out at the end of the season and never got the results. So same situation.
Lest we dwell too much on the past, let's pour one out. I should have got a prop here. Let's pour one out for 2025, and we're going to be on to 2026, but let me just say this, that what I did appreciate from my perspective, being there on the field for the loss in the playoffs, the loss in the Cup final, the loss to, well, I have to admit I left early against it was Miami, right? They came to our place, and it felt like we could have played another 90 minutes and not scored in those two losses. Like it never, in one of them, we went to penalties. Did we score in that game? I see. I've already put it out of my mind. Did we? No, we didn't. No, Valor's like, no, we 100% didn't score. We just held on for a penalty shootout. We can talk about this in the future, but I think when you go to Pens at home, you might be at a disadvantage. Like if I'm going to go to Pens, I might rather be on the road, because it felt like the players didn't have what it took in that moment to put all of our expectations, all of the weight of everything that we wanted on their backs. And it was just, it just felt like too much in that moment. So
it's unique too, because didn't they sub in a different goalkeeper?
They did.
What a
yes.
mindset
Painful.
to do. I mean,
yeah, right. And from Cal State Fullerton too, like, as he was a Titan. This is like double drive the dagger in to me. That was like it was a bold move. I mean, one might say it felt like we might have been out coached in that. In that, I'm talking about the Jägermeister Cup final here, and we might have, again, not that Collins is not going to learn from this, not that he seems like a really, really driven, passionate guy, and it seems like Collins can do the unsentimental things, chop, they gutted the roster from some fan favorites here. And that does tell me that they want to win. So, Rachel, I'm going to throw to you.
Okay, so as we get into the 2026 season, it's good to start with our roster. It really does show us where things are going to go. What's the mindset Collins and co have for this season? So we have 12 returning players. We've had 12 players leave, and we've had 8 new signings with 2 from the academy. So I'll take it off with Ryan H. Do you have any perspectives on the people that we've lost and any of our new signings for this season?
I do. I think we all expected, with the results from last season, to see a pretty big shift. And Valor wrote about it, I mean, through many parts of last season, that the players we have just don't fit Collins's system, and it showed. I mean, we were always defensively sound, and I know we talked as a group, and I think we even mentioned in articles last season that with somebody like Todd Donovan at the helm and somebody like Neil Collins running the show, I mean, you have 2 defensive players leading the show, so it made sense that we were always going to be a defensive powerhouse, but we did fail to score, as we've already mentioned, and we just couldn't really convert. So, I mean, it was to be expected. I don't think that was shocking to anybody prior to the departures, I suppose, that we were going to see that front line sort of gutted in the postseason. Of course, as soon as we started seeing players leave, like Cicerone and so forth, all the fans were up in arms of how can we let them go. But you asked a month earlier, and that's exactly what we would have expected. We didn't get the results last season. We struggled to score. And this is a game where goals matter. It's a game of goals, right? And if we're not putting the ball in the net, I mean, you have to expect that front line is just going to be removed. The people that we've brought in, I hate to be the pessimistic one, I'm not sold that we're going to be scoring goals this season. I mean, just to be really upfront, I went through and I looked at, and I know I'm probably not the only one, looked at their return from last season's with their respective clubs. I mean, the highest converting player, like goal per game, is Kyle Edwards. I mean, 12 goals and 33 appearances last year for, I believe, Hartford. That's only a 36%, that's not even half a goal a game. I'm like, and it just dwindles way down from there. So I really hope that Collins has a bigger picture that I'm not seeing. I'm not the tactical person. Maybe Valor can chime in a few moments on that, but I'm not seeing where the goals are going to come from this season as well. But I'm hopeful that all the players we've brought in, they look like they put in work. I went back and watched a ton of highlights for them. They're strong players, strong-willed, and when they do score, they're beautiful goals. When they're on the field, they put in all the work needed, and I hope that the system just works this year to convert. But as far as players going out, I wasn't shocked by who left. I pretty much hit the nail on the head on who was going to go and who was going to stay. Yeah.
I did want to comment on Kyle Edwards, Ryan, specifically, because you're right that he had a lot of appearances and very few goals. But one of the things that I think is important to know is that a lot of his appearances were from the bench. If you actually look at his USL numbers on his conversions per 90 minutes, he's actually scoring 0.68 goals per 90 minutes over his USL career. Last year was kind of bizarre because he actually scored 8 of his 12 goals as a substitute, where he would come in as kind of a super sub with 20 minutes left in the game, and notch a goal or two. And so it would be kind of weird where sometimes he would sub in and it looks like he has all these appearances without goals, but it's very minimal minutes that are actually causing that. So I think that if he gets a starting job, he has a lot more potential to kind of put that together.
No, and I just to rebut there, I see that end of it as well, and I think that's promising. But he's, in my opinion, looking at who we kept over last year, and who we've brought in. He might be the target man this season for us. And there's a lot of inconsistency in his years over in the USL, that I'm hopeful he is who I expect to see the most of in that starting role, as I look through it. But one of the things that we saw last season is, as players aren't available or the cluster of games build up, who fills that spot? And do we limp out of the Open Cup again this season because we don't have the depth? I mean, we're 2 players short from where we were last season, and that was still a concern that we didn't have the depth, right? So I'm still not convinced of where the goals will be coming from this year, but I do think that I used Edwards as an example because he's the best that we've brought in my opinion, in the offseason. But I still think there's a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah, do you think we'll miss a guy like Herrera, who didn't score nearly as much as we wanted him to, right? But he did. He played for the badge. Like, he gave it all for the badge. That guy did. Like, no doubt. Herrera, I mean, his biggest problem in the first couple of seasons with us was that he couldn't get on the field. He was hurt. He didn't play. It seems like, and what I use Herrera as an example, we've had guys with promise and potential before, but had not seen that like convert into goals. And so I am curious, because I know Valor's done a lot of looking into this. Are any of these guys that we've signed, are they ready to take that? Are they ready to take that next step? Are they gonna we're gonna have somebody have like a breakout year? Because when I look at the all USL, the first, what do they call it? It's like first team all league, or we just don't have those. We typically, other than a defender or goalkeeper, like it's been a while since we've seen someone who's like truly a game changer. And I had high hopes for Bennett. He got goals in the cup games. I don't think he scored very many league goals for us. We've got one in our bumper, one in our lead. What do you think about that, Val?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting because I think Republic has never been a high scoring team, as we've talked about before. And I think if you look at like past Republic seasons, what a lot of people say is the measure of a good striker is a goal every game. So 0.5 goals per 90 minutes. We've only ever had 3 players actually hit that value. We had Formella hit it in 2020, which was the COVID-shortened season. We had Iwasa hit it twice in 2018 and 2019. Very good reason that he's a club legend. And then we actually had Tommy Stewart hit it all the way back in 2014 when we were D3.
Is it likely because the amount of appearances that statistic takes place? I mean, if we're not seeing that in a present 2020 and on as a percentage or a statistic that our players are hitting, is it because they're just playing so often, or?
I think part of the issue is that Colin's system is very different than Briggs' system in that he relies pretty heavily on balls coming in from the wide. So Jekker actually led all USL Championship fullbacks in chances created last season. And Benitez and Warner were actually in the top 20 in the entire league just for putting balls into the box. The problem is we never had anybody get them. And a big aspect of that, I really do think, was height. Our average height of our strikers last season was 5'9". These new guys that Collins has brought in, they're 6'1", and they're all towering kind of physical specimens that are all about attacking and getting heads on ball. So I think Collins has very much looked at what he has, and his style of play is sending the wing backs up the sides, crossing the ball in. So guys like Pirano or Cicerone that are kind of shorter, quicker guys built to kind of dribble through opposing defenses, they don't really have a space for them in the system anymore, and that's why they didn't really do well in our system. You need other players to kind of pull defenders in while Pirano or Cicerone dribbles on goal. We didn't have that because our wing backs are staying wide. So very much where we're going to try and see the goals this season, I think, is coming mostly in the air or on volleys as Jack and Warner and Benitez put more of these balls in, and these tall physical guys are going to kind of take these spaces to either get headers or little flick ins. And so I think you're going to see a lot more goals just because our strikers are going to play in a way that actually suits what the back line is doing and the actual buildup is doing. Whereas last season we didn't really have.
And Daniel, what would you think is the building blocks from 2025 to help our new signings? Who are some players that are going to be key for some of these people to be breakouts?
Well, it's always interesting to me because I have all the respect in the world for Desmond. He's been the co-captain for a couple of years. As any of us who have interacted with him, he tends to be really soft-spoken, as well as on the pitch. And he's kind of a lead-by-example kind of guy. But I see someone like Kleeman as being more vocal. I've seen him at practices. I've seen him, and I could tell he wants to take on more of a role. He wants to do things like that. So it's a little bit kind of TBD. There's no one that's going to replace Roro. I think that provides opportunities for those that are going to solidify a starting position and are going to be someone that everyone else knows they can count on. I'm not sure who that is right now, so I'm really curious about that. But I think that one of the things I felt we were missing was kind of that leadership on the field and also a little bit of a mean streak. I think Herrera had that. We alluded to that. He would tear up, back lines, and then we bring somebody in to kind of take advantage of them, softening them up. And Rachel, you and I were there, and we're just like, my God, these new strikers they got, and I don't mean this derogatorily at all. I mean, these are beasts. I mean, these are like big,
strong,
men.
fast. Yeah.
I'm just like, get 2 or 3 of these guys coming at you, for 60, 70 minutes. It's going to wear you down. So I'm really not sure where the leadership's going to come from right now. I think, like I said, I think that another person that, God, why am I drawing a blank right now? He was hurt with his hip and he's coming back from surgery.
Timmer,
I'm sorry. Speaking of him, God, that guy is so positive and so kind of motivating. And in hearing him talk, he's like, I want to get back, and I want to score goals, and I want to do this, and he's just fired up. And that's the sort of spirit I want to see from someone that's going to be leading on the field. And I think he has the capability of doing that. Hopefully he'll come back and physically he'll be there. I did want to touch on a couple of things real quickly because we talk about scoring and we talk about the team kind of faltering at the end of seasons historically. I think there's such a big difference between the East and West. I almost look at the Eastern Conference as almost like La Liga, where you've got a couple teams. You got your Louisville and you got your, Charleston, that kind of are above everybody else. And then West is kind of like the EPL. It's a war every game. And so it's different. I think if you look at the number of Western Conference champions recently, that kind of backs that up, that when it comes down to it, the Western Conference can grind it out. So my hope is we can take some of those lessons from last season. I'd be interesting to see. I don't feel that the way they used Kimbrough last year would indicate that he's going to be ready to take a bigger step this year. I mean, he'll be able to take a step. He'll be able to probably get some more minutes. But I think they're looking at him as more of a longer-term prospect and continue to let him go off on loans and go play for the Mexican national team and the U.S. national youth teams and do that. But I see Willie starting at the end of the season. I saw him starting to get more aggressive in attacking. He wasn't always looking to pass off. He'd always try to track back and steal. But I saw him actually getting vocal. I saw him saying, I'm going to take it now. And it was good to see. So I think he's got incredibly upside potential. We're all hopeful that the people that Collins have brought in are going to bring a new energy. And like I said, I hope if you see him, I haven't seen clips of him playing. My guess is he was a pretty fiery guy. And I'd like to see more of that in our team. I go back to maybe, God, our first couple seasons, we had a couple guys that would take yellows. And you knew if someone ran over Roro, Merkovich or somebody would come over there and be like right in their face and everything. And it's like, no, you're not going to be doing that to our guys. And I haven't seen that the last few seasons. Our guys get taken down. And it's just like, that's not until that very last game, when Roro got his red. I think it'll be interesting. I think, I'm not going to put my kind of name on anybody in particular, but there are a few I'm looking for. And I do think that there's even an opening for some of the new guys to step in and just, particularly up in the striker position, because I think that's a whole new kind of crew that'll be working together. And I think that there'll be an opportunity for someone to step up and say, hey, I'm the guy. I've had some, years in the league. I've got some experience. Take some of these younger guys under my wing and point them in the right direction.
I'd like to jump in on that just a bit. The new signings we have, I know I mentioned to me, there's no clear, when we're looking at the stats in their previous season, there's no clear person to me on who's going to be up front, who's going to be that point person for us. I have hopes it's Edwards, but you're right, there's no clear indicator of who that can be. At this point, like with so much changing in the offseason, really anybody could fill that role. But you mentioned a lot about leadership. And seeing somebody step into that leadership role now that Roro's retired and he's moved on, he's doing other things with the club, right? One person who stood out to me last season when we weren't doing so hot, and it stood out to me especially when we were in, I think many of us traveled to the Oakland game at the Coliseum and we were watching, and the person who stood out to me at that game was Michel Benitez. He was fired up when we weren't chasing down the ball, when you see Luis Felipe watch the ball go right past him and just turn around and go the other way. And Benitez turns and he screams like, get on the ball, like just pointing him and just fired up. And that was like the first time that I noticed it from him. But then it carried back to Hard Health Park and I'm in the stands. And then I think I was actually talking to you in the stands right before halftime during a game. And they come into the far corner there near the TBB and we let the ball go again, and Benitez is fired up again, and he's just yelling and pointing and like just going in at our players. So I think he has the potential in Roro's absence to step more into that leadership role. I don't see him being the Merkovich, like all up in taking the yellow cards for things like that. I don't see that much fire in him. But I do see enough for him to be that leader on the field when we're not doing the things we're supposed to be doing, and we're not chasing down the ball and going for the second balls, and we're just letting it play out like we were at times at the beginning of last season. So I think he really, to me, he stands out as somebody who could fill that leadership role. And I have high hopes for him. I'm happy he's one that we retained.
Absolutely.
Just because he impressed. As far as the new signings from last season, he was the one for me. There was a lot of players. We could say Kleeman was phenomenal. But as far as like passion and energy on the field, to me it was Benitez was a very close second for like top signing last season for us.
Well, and he was Swiss Army knife. I mean, how many different positions did he play last year? I can think of probably like
he
5.
Played all over.
Yeah.
Before we finally settled him into that left wingback position, which I think is probably his best role. But just having him there, I know we still have Spalding that can back him up. So it does, looking at the depth chart that we have, it does give us a lot of mobility with where we put Benitez, because Spalding can kind of step up into that left wingback role if we need him to.
And he was all over the place last season. I remember Valor at one point, I an article prep that I was about to put out, and I was like, you have Benitez listed as playing midfield. He was on the wing. I'm like, no, he was listed as being on the wing. But go back and watch the game. He never hit the wing. He stayed in the midfield and controlled it the entire game. So his ability to just pivot mid-game is it reminded me very much of Roro. When something's not going well, he's supposed to be over there, but he ends up way over here doing exactly what we need at that moment. And so he really is, the Swiss Army knife is like the best way to describe him. He was all over the place.
And I think he played like over 80% of the minutes for us last season in multiple different positions. Transfer market has him as a winger. I think that he's kind of like, he's a rare guy for us too. And I don't know, like you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like he can get it done. Like he obviously is defensively solid, but he can be creative as well, right? He's got a lot of creativity that can be unlocked. And so I was really glad that they brought him back.
Awesome. I think we can segue into our preseason. So before we get too in depth on our expectations for 2026, I want to look at the cup friendly that we're having with San Jose Earthquakes. And here's just a couple stats to go off before we go into this. Last 5 games have resulted in 2 wins and 3 losses with San Jose. And prior to our friendly that's happening now, in 2017, we had 3 consecutive home games with San Jose. And when you take a team like MLS San Jose Earthquakes and the sort of competitive nature, I think that it'll be something on paper for us to see to kind of get an early insight into 2026. So I want to get everybody's expectations or maybe their predictions for what this game will look like. We'll start off with Daniel.
All right. Well, personally, I think that in talking, Rachel and I, when you were out there with me talking to the players, all the new ones they brought on were clearly well versed in how important it is for us as fans to see effort out there, to see people playing for the badge. And you hear their comments. Hey, I'm just excited to play in front of this big crowd. I'm excited to play in front of these passionate fans. And I came here as a visitor. My God, this place rocked. And I think that they want to have a good performance. Good performance is not them necessarily winning the game. It doesn't matter. And it's hard because you want to see your team win, of course, especially against San Jose and their inevitable fans will come up there and the guys will be shirtless. They shouldn't be taking their shirts off and stuff. That's what I always remember about San Jose, and drives me nuts. But I do would like to see some creativity in the attack. I know that's something that develops over time as players play together. I would like to see a variety in attack. I'd also like to see. I thought we got ran through in the center of our midfield a lot last season. We didn't have size. We didn't have anyone that could really control it in a way that needed to be controlled. So those are a couple areas I'm looking at. I'm looking at the further development of guys like Chibi and Willie and seeing how they do. Some of these new people that I just didn't see that much of. Seeing them on the practice pitch, like I said, we got some physical specimens. So I like to see. I think what we're going to see is a different style of play, and I think it's needed. So I'm excited for that. I hope the fans, if they lose by a couple goals, it's not like, oh my God, we're going to be crap this season and we can't compete with anyone and all these new guys are garbage and Collins must go. If I hear Collins must go before like the
Collins
preseason, yeah.
Hashtag Collins out. Like, I think you got to throw out, Rachel, I think you got to throw out that last year's Open Cup loss, right? We didn't, what team did we even field in that? Like,
it was an intentional grounding. It was, I don't think Absolutely. They had any intention of bringing, and it really comes to the effect of what we were saying earlier about certain things need to just happen and a loss needs to happen. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look great, publicly through an Open Cup where we've been competitive and we've gotten through ranks. But I think, as unfortunately, maybe they were citing the Jaeger Cup as a better advantage. Who knows? But yeah, that was terrible to watch.
On paper, it says 2-1, but we were just run over. I would highlight that, the Open Cup against San Jose 2024 as the moment where I went from like casual, I love soccer. I love the beautiful game. I follow Tottenham Hotspur, who's one of you guys earlier said Liverpool's having a miserable season. Hey, come on. Come on, but it was that moment. Went by myself. I tried to get my brother is like a pretty frequent attender of matches, but he was sick or something and couldn't be there. I was by myself. Bought a ticket to the TBB ticket, and I kind of stood down there, but I felt kind of awkward because I don't know all the songs, and then that 4-3. That 4-3 win, I know I didn't know any of you guys yet either. So, but that 4-3 win, I went to the in the break before the second period of extra time, I went and I bought a jersey. I was that's the real. So when you say we're 2-3 in the last 5, I mean, let's just toss out 2025, and this is just a friendly. But there's going to be some extra English and a little extra a little extra oomph on those tackles because they really are our geographic rival, right? More so than Oakland or any of these teams that Monterey. Yeah, don't get me started, Monterey. It looks like Ryan.
For example, last year's season, I don't mean to throw any particular guys under the bus, but we had Aaron Edwards last season, who's now with Forward Madsen. He just signed with USL 1 team. He very clearly wasn't at the USLC level at the point. His first and I think only start on the season, at least until the end of the season, was that game against San Jose. We didn't see him fit to play him against the USL Championship teams, but we threw him into a team against an MLS team in an Open Cup. It's very indicative, I think, of the level that we expected out of that Open Cup game, and it very much felt like a throwaway.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to be brutally honest, I think I wrote probably the most dragging article following that game, and it was a lot of fun, but it was also very true. There's nothing that I said in there that wasn't true. I mean, it was a disgraceful attempt, right? We knew it was a throwaway, but like, it's against a team that we go up against. Let's be honest, every year we face them at least once, right? And every year it's typically in a competitive match. It's a game that is the rival that, like, Oakland, that rivalry brews, right? Like, it brews, but it's nowhere near where we're at with San Jose. And I know that San Jose is, a little further south than some of the other teams that should be our geographical rival, but they are, you're right, to Ryan's point, they are our geographical rival. And to go into that game last year and for that to be the result and to be limping through that game was just miserable. I had such the hardest time watching it. But if we're being really honest too, I mean, it's a Bruce Arena team. It's not going to be easy to play against, no matter what. Whether we put our best team out there, I would have loved to see our best team out there. But whether we put our best team out there or not, at the end of the day, it's still a Bruce Arena team. His stats speak for themselves. He gets results. I mean, he just does. He's a phenomenal coach, and he knows how to get the best out of every player he's got on there. And his San Jose Earthquakes is his lowest performing team that he's coached as a head coach. Averaging just 1.3 points per game, 35% win percentage. Like, that's 10% off his next team that he's ever coached. So it's a drastic difference, but at the end of the day, it's still a Bruce Arena team. It's not going to be an easy game for us, and we're going into a preseason. So is it going to mean much? No. It's just not. It's simply going to be, I mean, I know our players have played some preseason games already this year, but it's really just another way to get our new half of the team intermixed with the returning half of the team, right? So it's not going to mean much at the end of the day, but it's never going to be an easy game to go into, because at the end of the day, it's still, I mean, they're out here signing big names. On top of that, they've got new players coming in themselves that are at an entirely different level than other teams in their own league. So, I mean, it's just not going to be, for me, it's going to be a fun game to watch, but I'm expecting preseason. That's it.
Does
Now,
anybody want
to think about is that we may get to see Timo Werner in Sacramento at Hart Park, which is very, very funny to me. Like,
FIFA legend. FIFA.
It's like, I love Republic, but picturing him playing in a stadium that's next to a water park is just inherently funny to me. Like, it'll be
a closed down water park.
It's an abandoned water park.
It'll be a much better look when we're downtown in the Quail Yards, or whatever we want to call it.
The Quail Yards, we're coining it.
Picturing some of these former top players in the game coming to Sacramento and playing next to an abandoned water park is objectively funny.
I mean, we've seen Didier Drogba play next to the abandoned water park. It's like a passage of, like, coming to America. Are you going to play by the abandoned water park?
Seattle had 3 guys who had made legit appearances in the World Cup. Not just garbage time, but, like, they had, like, 3 players who had played real minutes, and Jordan Morris, who I know is not the same hopeful that we have, but they brought him. I remember when Seattle was here, I was like, this feels unfair. These guys are like international, and even San Jose in that game, they brought in their new signing and they had just paid like $8 million for him from River Plate or whatever. So it's like, we want to, like, show up and show out against these MLS teams, because it's punching above in a division.
And we get good results. I mean, we're known for knocking MLS teams out of the Open Cup. So if we're talking Republic versus San Jose in the Open Cup, I expect not last season. I expect the seasons before. I expect to go in and compete and for us to see the push. But this is preseason. It is what it is. I expect to see Timo Werner on the field. Probably. He's new. He's going to have to get his minutes and warm up before the season starts for himself, right? So we'll probably see him next to the abandoned water slides, getting a couple minutes. And it'll be fun to watch, but at the end of the day, it'll still be preseason. And I think, Rachel, were you going to ask us to throw
prediction?
Put down the gauntlet. Let's do it. What do we think the goal is?
What did we do? 2-1 is what we lost last year?
Yeah. Yes.
I'll go 2-1. And I'm going to say it's probably going to be a San Jose win. But
I was leaning that way, too.
And I'm not hurting.
Yeah, I was leaning that way, too. I was thinking 2-1, but I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to do that.
I'm going to go big here. I'm going to go 3-3. Timo Werner, pace merchant, gets a brace. If you guys played FIFA like I did, you remember that, like, cheap beast 84.
Yeah.
Like, everybody had him. He just runs straight towards the goal and score on you. It was the most maddening thing ever. But I'm gonna go like that. They take the Governors off a little bit. 3-3 from me.
I'm gonna go 3-2, but More importantly, I'm going to say that I actually don't care what the final score is at all. As long as we score a goal and we don't give up any cheap defensive goals, and we get to see kind of the formation we're going to be playing, I don't really care what the final score ends up in, especially preseason. I just want to see what we have.
I like that.
I hope I'm wrong, but for some reason 0-0 is coming into my head. Us just having a defensive masterclass and maybe not getting too many opportunities to score, and just hopefully seeing some, like I said, creativity. But I would like to see our defense kind of hold them down to no goals or a goal. See Danny put in a good shift, but again, I don't really have high expectations as far as I just want to see progress. I want to say, okay, what's the plan here? How are they going to attack this? And getting some good competition from San Jose, who even on their second string so have some very good players that are above USL Championship quality that can challenge our guys and give them a good test. Because I would much rather, and I think even Collins, thinking ahead, we may face these guys again. We're not going to show them everything, So if they feel like, oh well, they beat us, they're going to see a different team in a competitive game for sure.
I agree.
One of the things I want to throw out is there's a really good chance we actually play San Jose again fairly soon. We play the Burrito Boys the third game of the season to start off the U.S. Open Cup. The Open Cup is kind of minimized this season due to the World Cup and so many players being absent. So we enter in round 1 as opposed to round 3 with prior seasons. So we play the third game of the season against Burrito Boys. The winner of that game will play one of the other winners. And then the third round, all the MLS teams come in. And there's a limited number of MLS teams in the tournament this season. And because they go off of geography, I think there's a very good chance that we play San Jose again. The alternative would be that we play Portland or Seattle, who are both also in the tournament. But I think it's more likely that we get San Jose and Portland and Seattle play each other.
Can I offer a wild conspiracy theory that I just made some connections on?
We
totally
need that.
Partially related, but completely unrelated. We talked about we're going to potentially see Timo Werner next to the abandoned water slides. Did you know the water slides became abandoned in 2022, November of 2022? So I think the Republic's success in the Open Cup is directly correlated to whether or not Raging Waters has waters raging down the abandoned water slides. That's my new theory. It's just like the 49ers and the power whatever next to their training facilities injuring all their players. That I think there's a direct correlation to the water flowing down those slides and us competing in the Open Cup.
That's so you need to get a team from TBB to get to the top of the water slide and just do a bucket chain.
Listen, everybody bring a host.
Volunteer.
Bring a host.
I volunteer.
There we go. We can fix all of our problems.
Well, I think also, as far as another conspiracy goes, that's about the same time the levee patrol stopped hanging out at the levee. So I was telling them, hey, I don't ever see a levee patrol on a levee anymore. And I was like, yeah, we kind of,
why that is? There was no more water coming down the slides to flood out the levee, so they didn't need to be there. So
yeah, good point.
Can anybody just comment on the fact that I'm gonna have to out myself here. I did not know that a team existed called the Burrito Boys that we're playing.
It's like a commonly referred name.
What team is this? Is that El Favorito?
Yes.
Okay.
They're owned by a burrito.
Are they division? Are they Div 1?
Amateur.
Like what are they?
Amateur.
They're amateur.
And they're very well
in the
loved
Open Cup.
too. Yeah.
They actually won the Open Cup in 1993. They won the entire thing and qualified for Champions League, where they actually beat a Mexican First Division team on the road in Mexico in the 1994 season. Now, this is before MLS comes into the picture in 1995, right? So you got mostly amateur teams winning the Open Cup. But yeah, they have a lot of Open Cup history, and we only beat them 1-0 last season.
It was a tough game.
It was a very strong game.
And all starters.
And as someone who was born in San Francisco, that was my first local taqueria. And it's on Mission and 24th. If you're ever down there, the best $10 beer you're going to have. I mean, I love that place. So hopefully
I hear you guys. But I think that Rachael and I could probably take you to some places in Fresno that would blow your mind. Because honestly, the tacos in Sacramento are not they don't even compare.
I've had Fresno tacos; they're good, but that is a hot.
You haven't had the right. You haven't had the right ones. So you haven't had the right ones. If you did, you would change your mind. I'm telling you. The only city that I'm gonna say Fresno's number 2. Okay, LA is still number 1 for tacos. I mean, like it's as a Giants fan, like that really caused me a lot of pain. But Sacramento is like got a ways to go.
Boo. Yeah. So let's quickly.
I do want to say one more thing about the preseason game, really quick. One of the things that I'm really, really excited to see is what formation we come out in. I don't think that our back five changes at all, formation-wise. Player-wise, we may move some stuff around. It's preseason. That's fine. But what's really interesting to me is the middle of the field. Last season, we ran 2 center midfielders and 3 strikers. We had a striker and 2 wingers on the outside. But this season, we haven't signed any new wingers, and we've signed a plethora of midfielders. So it would not surprise me if we switch from a 5-2-3 to a 5-3-2 and just play with 2 strikers up top instead, and more roll with kind of a center attacking mid and 2 center defensive mids. If you actually look, Arturo, who we just brought in, he plays as a center attacking mid predominantly, and Crisostomo plays predominantly as a center defensive mid. So it would not surprise me to see a midfield trio of Arturo leading the attack, and then Wiley and Crisostomo kind of holding that midfield line. Dan, you made a comment earlier about how we kept getting run through the midfield. And we also commented on how we often didn't have enough people in the box when these balls come swinging in. If we run a 5-3-2, it gives space for those wingbacks to head up the sides, and now you have 2 strikers in the box at all times. You've got a center attacking mid who can make a late run into the box, and you keep 2 center defensive mids holding the line to kind of cover for the wingbacks that are going up. So I think it creates a more defensive system that works a lot more with crossing balls in. So I'm curious to see if that's something that Collins attempts, especially with all the new midfield signings that we have. So I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to out of the San Jose game, is kind of seeing where do we line up? Are we changing things, or are we sticking with that 5-2-3 that we had last season?
Okay. Yep. As we wrap this all up, just a reminder for the 2026 season, we have 3 games coming up. Our home opener with Tulsa FC on the 7th of March. That's a home game. Lexington is an away game on the 14th of March. And then we have the Open Cup with El Favorito on 3/18, which is a home game. All right. And then as far as the expectations for Quail City Soccer, I'm going to pass this off to Ryan H.
Yeah, we've been quite quiet in this off season, and I know you guys missed us, but we've been working very, very hard in the off season. So you're going to see, heading into the 2026 season, a plethora of new things coming for you guys. We are investing in that new thing called I think social media. So we're going to be on the TikTok, as I say far too often. We'll be on TikTok, YouTube. I think Valor's taken over the X. I'm still going to call it Twitter. Still going to be Twitter for me till the end of days. So we are in a number of new places for you guys, but not just putting the same old content in those new places. We've got all kinds of new content. So you get to see us now. This is what we look like. We've got all kinds of new video content, obviously audio content. Thanks for listening. Coming out this season. So you're going to see us in new full 90 here on the Quail Call, a number of new video and audio content coming your guys' way. Stay tuned. Lots of good things. And of course, we're bringing back everybody's personal favorites. The tactical analysis with Valor Nash, which definitely is like taught me some new things, taught you guys some new things. Valor, what can we expect this season?
This season, we're actually going to dive even heavier into stats. I've actually made a full custom database for our Quail City team here to kind of track everything throughout this new season. So we should be able to come to you guys with a lot more facts and stats in regards to how the team is actually playing, what formations are working, which players are standing out, even if they're kind of not standing out to the fan base, and who's kind of struggling. And we'll bring that to you weekly as we break down every single game coming to you on Wednesday.
It's exciting stuff, and so we hope that you guys will come along for the ride with us this season. You can expect these episodes every 2 weeks. If you haven't had a chance yet, please go back and check out Daniel's interview with Todd Donovan. Really incredible piece of work of journalism there, and an in-depth conversation, and we'll probably keep on referring to it here and there as we go on this year, and as we kind of watch from afar to see how Todd does in New York City. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Rachael, our producer. Thanks to Ryan for rounding us all up. Thanks to Daniel, and thanks to Valor, and we will see you next time.